Hello and welcome, and I'd like to introduce everyone to tonight's episode of Album Rant, and this is episode 96, and I am once again going to revisit the world of new wave of British heavy metal artist Iron Maiden. And I have talked about them a lot before on this channel. I have incorporated them into an episode of Face Off. I have reviewed 3 of their albums prior to this. So I'm just going to go straight down the timeline. I'm going to continue this with their 5th studio released in 1984, entitled Powerslave, and that is what you see right there in front of you. However, before going any further, I once again, as per tradition, want to kind of catch everyone up to how we got to this moment in time. And Iron Maiden actually go back a lot further than you might think they do. They actually go back to the mid-70s. Yes, formed in Britain by bassist Steve Harris, and he recruited a lot of members. A lot of them came, a lot of them went. But by the year 1980, they were ready to release their very first studio album, and simply entitled Iron Maiden. And the lineup for that first album was Paul Di'Anno on lead vocals, Dave Murray on lead guitar, Dennis Stratton on lead guitar, Steve Harris on the bass, and Clive Burr on the drums. And I thought it was a great album. Kind of fused together punk rock and heavy metal. And some of the most well-known tracks from that album were on there, such as Prowler, Remember Tomorrow, Running Free, Phantom of the Opera, Transylvania, Strange World, Shaw the Harlot, the song, the title track, Iron Maiden, and there's also a non-album single on there, was not initially on there, entitled Sanctuary, but would appear on future releases. And I kind of wish Sanctuary was on the initial release, because I think it's a great song, one of the most I think it's one of the best songs ever recorded. But anyways, after that, unfortunately, Dennis Stratton's tenure with the band would come to an end, because he left after that first album and was replaced by Adrian Smith for Killers, released in 1981. And some of the tracks from Killers were The Ides of March, Rothschild, Murders in the Rue Morgue, Another Life, Genghis Khan, Innocent Exile, the title track, Prodigal Son, Purgatory, Drifter, and a non-album single entitled Twilight Zone, which did not appear on the initial album, but would appear on future releases or future reissues of that album. However, after that second album, lead vocalist Paul Di'Anno was removed from the band, and he was replaced with ex-Samson singer Bruce Dickinson, also known as Bruce, which is really, really stupid in my opinion. Now, the thing about this, Paul Di'Anno had kind of a raspy, almost punk-like voice, and it really contributed a lot to the band's atmosphere and their style. Bruce Dickinson had a much more epic voice, I guess you could say, much more akin to the likes of Ronnie James Dio, and so this was a pretty big shakeup. But putting all that aside, they released Number of the Beast in the year 1982, and that was one of the very first episodes, one of the very first albums that I ever reviewed on this channel. And some of the tracks from Number of the Beast were Invaders, Children of the Damned, The Prisoner, 22, Acacia Avenue, the very epic and very mainstream title track, Run to the Hills, Gangland, and then the album closer, the 7+ minute Hallowed Be Thy Name, which may be the band's most popular song out there. And Number of the Beast absolutely blew me away. And there was also a non-album B-side entitled Total Eclipse, which did appear on future reissues of the album. However, after Number of the Beast, the last little shakeup happened because drummer Clive Burr left and was replaced by Nicko McBrain, who is still technically with the band. However, he has taken kind of a step back from touring, and he is not touring on their current tour they're doing right now, the Run for Your Lives tour. So in 1983, their 4th album came out, and it was entitled Peace of Mind, spelled P-I-E-C-E, not P-E-A-C-E. So now we got that straight. And I have reviewed this before. I reviewed it quite a while ago, actually, probably a few months ago. But some of the tracks from Peace of Mind were Where Eagles Dare, Revelations, A Flight, A Victorious, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper, Still Life, Quest for Fire, yeah, Sun and Steel, and To Tame a Land, which was based off the novel Dune. And I thought it was a very great album, but maybe not quite as good as Number of the Beast. But moving into their next album, released in 1984, which is what I am talking about tonight, the album Powerslave was released, and there were no lineup shifts from the previous album, so this is actually a first for the band. Now, as you look at the cover art right in front of you, what you probably already know if you're tuning into this is that who you see on the cover right over there, that is their mascot, simply entitled or simply named Eddie. And he appears on all of their albums. And the way Eddie is portrayed, it reflects the atmosphere and the theme that the album is going for, which I think is really, really creative, and I really like it. Whether it's a good Iron Maiden album or a bad Iron Maiden album, one thing we have to agree on is that the artwork is always completely top-notch. So yes, right here he's making up an Egyptian statue, which I really kind of love, actually. So looking on inside here we have a lineup right there. I kind of already went through these guys. Then we have a whole bunch of lyrics right there. I am not going to read that entire thing. And then over on the back, we have a promotional image of the band with a sarcophagus. Looks pretty fitting. So sliding this on back in here. Ooh, I'm a little trouble. Come on. Yeah. There. Ooh, that was awkward. Over here on the back, we have some more artwork inside the temple. And then down here, we have the track list. And unfortunately, the font isn't too particularly big, but it's okay. And the whole thing kicks off with Aces High, which is one of the band's most well-known songs ever. And it does appear frequently in concert today. However, that was not always the case. This did appear on the, this was played on the World Slavery Tour and from 1984 to 1985, which is the tour where they were promoting the album Powerslave. But after that, they did not play it live, at least I think, until the year 1999. And by that point, Bruce Dickinson had left the band, and then he rejoined the band, and they kicked it off with the Ed Hunter Tour, and that was actually the second appearance of Aces High. Other tours that it's appeared on were the Somewhere Back in Time tour from 2008 to 2009. I did see that one. The Maiden England tour from 2012 to 2013. I did see that one. The Legacy of the Beast tour from 2018 to 2022. I saw that twice. And then, of course, the Run for Your Lives tour, which is currently going on right now. And usually Aces High would be the lead-off track for the show, but now they've kind of moved it around a bit. It's now appearing in the encore more and more often, which I think is pretty interesting. But yes, I gotta say also, I did not always love this song. I always liked it, but I didn't fully love it until just recently, which is kind of strange, actually. I was never really a huge fan of the intro rhythm, the I think I did that correctly, I did my best there, but I always thought that kind of intro beat was kind of off-putting, actually. But yes, after that initial 30 seconds or so, it gets very, very fast and very explosive. And it wasn't until the year 2022 I saw them for the second time on the Legacy of the Beast tour, and Aces High was the last song they played. Yes, they moved it to the very end that time. Interesting. It was actually their second encore. And just something clicked inside of me when I was watching it. I was like, wait, this song is good. I like this. I think I like this song now. And so it's actually a very, very interesting experience in my life I just wanted to share with you. But yes, the lyrics are like, there goes the siren that warns of the air raid. There comes the sound of the gun sending flak. Out for the scramble, we've got to get airborne. Got to get up for the coming attack. Jump in the cockpit and start up the engines. Remove all the wheel blocks, there's no time to waste. Gathering speed as we head down the runway. Got to get airborne before it's too late. And I don't know what it is. I just really, really love those lyrics. And yes, I really do love it. And of course, the chorus is like running, scrambling, flying, rolling, turning, diving, going in it again. I really, really love that. Just that quick little staccato-like rhythm that was right there. That just blew me away. And yeah, the song's only about 4.5 minutes or so, but it's great, okay? Again, I never always loved it. I love it now, and I'm really glad I rediscovered it. And one of my favorite Iron Maiden tracks today. And another thing that I really need to bring up is war is a common theme that appears a lot throughout their lyrics, because that continues into the second track entitled 2 Minutes to Midnight. Now, Ace is High was just written by Steve Harris, but 2 Minutes to Midnight is written by Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith. And it's, once again about war. It's a protest song about the nuclear arms race or nuclear holocaust. And it's all about how war and fear and terror is often used to fuel the global economy, and politicians and the wealthy often profit for it. And really, at the end of the day, guys, war just leaves the world in worse shape than it was initially. And so it's all about how the rich and powerful profit from this while the little guy ends up suffering, which is really kind of tragic, actually. And allegedly, the title references the Doomsday Clock, which is a symbolic clock that was meant to count down the time until the global destruction. And the closest it ever got was 11:58, which is 2 minutes to midnight. That was in 1953, so that is where the title comes from. Now, you might be expecting this song to have a very dark, very gloomy, very doomy atmosphere. It really doesn't. The song is actually a lot more upbeat than you might think it is, which is interesting. But yeah, the main rhythm is like and I also really like that. But yeah, kill for gain or shoot to maim, but we don't need a reason. The golden goose is on the loose, never out of season. Blackened pride still burns inside, a shell of bloody treason. Here's my gun for a barrel of fun, for the love of the living death. And yeah, I really like that. Now, the pre-chorus does slow down a little bit, but I'm actually okay with that because it's building up to the chorus, the actual chorus, which is very, very, very explosive. We have 2 minutes to midnight, the hand that threatens doom. 2 minutes to midnight, to kill the unborn in the womb. And yeah, I just really, really love that. And then it just moves very smoothly into the next chorus or the next verse, and the song flows very well. This is one of their most well-known songs. This appears in a ton of their set list. I'm going to go on record and saying out of all the songs on this album, 2 Minutes to Midnight has been performed the most. And it appears on the majority of their greatest hits compilations, so the band obviously thinks a lot about this one. Now, it does slow down a little bit in the interlude and the bridge, and I'm okay with that. It gets a little murky, a little melodic, and just a little bit soft, I guess. There are a few guitar solos going on, but, they're nothing really to write home about. But then, of course, it builds right back up, goes into the third and final verse and the pre-chorus and the chorus arrangement, and it ends on a very, very explosive note. So 2 Minutes to Midnight gets my seal of approval. Now, track number 3 is called Lost for Words, Big Aura. I think I said that correctly. Big Aura? Yeah, we'll go with that. This is an instrumental, actually. It is the 4th instrumental they have ever recorded. The others being Transylvania, The Ides of March, and Genghis Khan off Iron Maiden and Killers, respectively. And apparently, this was not always meant to be an instrumental. Apparently, it was initially supposed to have lyrics to it. However, the band just could not come up with lyrics to fit the mood of the song, to fit the instrumentation, and okay, that's fine. I'm personally not buying that. I mean, these guys have written some really phenomenal lyrics. I really think if they had tried, they would have been able to find some lyrics, but whatever, we still have the instruments, that's fine with me. But yeah, that's why it's called Lost for Words, because they don't have any lyrics. Makes sense to me. Now, as for the song itself, it's kind of slow. I wouldn't call it slow. It's more mid-tempo, and it kind of broods along and plods along and, marches along, which is fine with me. I think it's good for what it is, but to be perfectly honest, when I think of really great instrumentals, I think of like the Call of Cthulhu or La Villa Strangiato, and they're very progressive in nature. They take a very classical music approach where we have all of these different segments, all these different movements, all these different bits and pieces that kind of flow from one to the next to the next. And it really makes a very intricate piece of art, really intricate piece of work. And Lost for Words doesn't really do that. It really just feels like a traditional metal song with the lyrics removed, and that's for the most part what it is, so I guess that makes sense. But, I'm glad we have it, but it is definitely weaker than the first two tracks. However, that is going to kind of change a bit because we are going to get to the next song, Flash of the Blade, which is the fourth song from side one and the fourth song in total. And this one comes swinging right out of the gate. We have a very fast, very sharp electric intro, and it's creative, I'll give it that, okay? I've never really heard Iron Maiden do anything like this before, so I'm really glad that we got it. This was written by Bruce Dickinson, and apparently it's about his love for fencing, which makes sense to me. We see him with a fencing sword a lot in the promotional photos, so yeah, I guess he's into fencing. Cool. I like it. Like I said, it's got a very fast rhythm and it really moves along very well. And it always seems to maintain that fast rhythm. I think it does slow down a little bit in the middle, maybe, but for the most part, it's very heavy, very fast, and very electric. The songwriting may not quite be up to par. It's definitely not as good as Aces High or 2 Minutes to Midnight, but I think it is good for what it is. But, it's usually a song that not many people talk about, and to be perfectly frank, it's one of the weaker songs on here, so I kind of understand that. I'm not too keen on the chorus either, but, it's okay. However, the last song from side one is called The Duelist, and this was written by Harris, and he was inspired to write this by a historical drama film of the same name. And much like Lost for Words, this one is more mid-tempo. It's not really slow, but it's definitely not fast. It's not as fast as Flash of the Blade, and it does, move along pretty well. The sound is great. This is produced by Martin Birch, who was their longtime producer all the way up through the Fear of the Dark album, and the sound is absolutely great. And the songwriting I think is very strong. The rhythm is pretty decent. But again, this one doesn't fully grip me like some of their other work does, but I do really like it. But the chorus is kind of decent. Oh, fight for the honor, fight for the splendor, fight for the pleasure. Okay, not too much to write home about, but pretty good. But yeah, very mid-tempo, not very powerful, but catchy enough. I'll give it that. It does have a rather intricate interlude, actually. It goes on for quite a bit, actually. This thing is pushing 6 minutes, so having all said that, it's the interlude does go on for quite a while. It has a bunch of varying segments that really do deviate a lot from the main rhythm. Decent guitar work. It's got a nice hook in it. The bass is also really good. There's a little segment in there where it goes do-do-do-do-do, and the song kind of stops for a little bit. Steve Harris kind of takes over for just a second. I think it's pretty good. But yeah, not a great song, but certainly not a horrible song. But my favorite from side one is definitely either Aces High or 2 Minutes to Midnight. I'll say this. In my early days in high school, I overplayed 2 Minutes to Midnight to death. So tonight, I'm saying Aces High is my favorite from side number one. That may change one day, but it's not tonight. So, moving over to the other side of both the record and the cover art, side number 2 is right over here, and there's only 3 songs on side number 2. Very interesting. But it starts off with Back in the Village. And allegedly, this is a sequel to the song The Prisoner that was off Number of the Beast. I actually did not know that till recently. Iron Maiden's done this before, actually, because 22 Acacia Avenue is a sequel to Charlotte the Harlot. Hooks in You is a sequel to 22 Acacia Avenue. From Here to Eternity is a sequel to Hooks in You. So we have a little four-parter there, but this right here is a two-parter. And this was written by Smith and Dickinson. And like I said, they collaborate quite a lot, actually. They did both write Flight of Icarus off of the Peace of Mind album. And I think I mentioned that I do have some issues with that song, but both 2 Minutes to Midnight and Back in the Village I think are much better, okay? It's very fast at the beginning, okay? And it maintains a very fast tempo throughout. Again, just like Flash of the Blade, this one comes out punching. This one comes out right out of the gate, and it just goes and goes and goes. And I think this song flows a lot better than both The Duelist and Flash of the Blade. I may get some pushback for that. That's fine. I'm just stating my opinion. If you want to state your opinion, I highly encourage you to do that, okay? But yes, what I also love about this song, it just continues to build and build and build, which you just know there's a big explosion coming towards at some point, and it never really lets up. The song never gives the audience a chance to breathe, and I just really love that, okay? The Duelist didn't do this. The Duelist did let up in the middle, and it was good for what it was, but I just like I really like Back in the Village for the opposite reason. The interlude, there is an interlude. It does change up the rhythm just slightly, but again, it continues mostly with the main riff, the main rhythm, and I just love the ending. The song just stops, and Bruce just goes, back in the village, I'm back in the village, I'm back in the village, again. And then it just ends, and that's the end of the song. And, well, actually, back up. On the record edition, that is the end of the song. But on most CD editions, there's actually a little thing at the end. You hear what sounds like an Egyptian slave driver going, woo, dum dum, dum dum, dum dum, dum dum, dum dum, dum dum. And it just goes, oh, and then the drums start kicking in, and it just flows very smoothly into the title track. Powerslave, yes, right there. And this was written exclusively by Bruce Dickinson. And to me, at least, this is a counterpart to Gates of Babylon by Rainbow. And if you've never heard of Gates of Babylon, you really need to. It's another Middle Eastern-based number, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So is Powerslave, and it just comes exploding right after that intro drumming. And it's like dun 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 dun, and it just keeps that up. And like I said, it's got a very Babylonian, very Egyptian feel to it, and it really goes very well into the overall theme of this album. But yes, we have Into the Abyss I'll Fall, The Eye of Horus. Into the Eyes of the Night, Watching Me Go. Green is the cat's eye that glows in this temple. Enter the risen Osiris, risen again. And yes, tell me why I have to be a power slave. I don't want to die. Oh my God, why can't I live on? And as you can probably tell, Powerslave is a very epic number. Powerslave is a very powerful number, no pun intended. Again, it's got that very epic Egyptian feel to it, and that's just one thing I really love about it. It runs almost 7 minutes. With the intro, it's over 7 minutes, and that's pretty incredible. Does, again, slow down just a little bit in the middle, but it comes pumping right back up into that main rhythm, and it ends very, very epically. I've heard them play this twice. They did it on the Somewhere Back in Time tour, and they played it on the Book of Souls tour, actually. That was kind of a surprise. That was kind of a deep cut they played for that one, but it was always a very, very welcome addition, and yes, that was Powerslave. Very epic in scope. However, not quite as epic as the album closer, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner! And this is a 13-minute, 40-second progressive metal explosive epic. And this is a song, this is an Iron Maiden song that I was hooked from the very beginning. This is actually based on a poem by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. It was very opium-induced, apparently. And you all know the story. We have this ship out in the middle of the ocean, and one of the sailors kills the albatross. And from there, a curse is placed on the ship. The water dries up, and everyone starts dying of dehydration, and eventually he has to wear the albatross around his neck. Yes, that is correct. He has to wear the albatross on his neck. And when he finally survives the entire ordeal, he is now cursed to tell his tale wherever he goes, to teach to those to love all God's children, and it is just completely crazy, but so awesome. There is no big epic build-up to this song. Once again, it comes swinging right out of the gate. And yes, we have Hear the Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. See his eyes, he stops one of three. Mesmerizes one of the wedding guests. Stay here and listen to the nightmares of the sea. And the music plays on and the bride passes by, caught by his spell, and the mariner tells his tale. So yes, he is cursed to tell his tale about how he killed the albatross wherever he goes, or else he starts being inflicted with some kind of pain, from what I understand. I read the poem as part of my English class in high school, and that's about all I remember about it, but I just remember it being really, really batshit insane, and it pretty much is. But yeah, of course, when I heard we were reading Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner, I'm like, whoa, I have a song about that. And my teacher's like, hey, you need to bring it in so we can listen to it. And she did not quite know what she had in store for her. That's kind of funny. But yes, it does continue on that very 18th century sounding beat for quite a bit. And it just goes on and on and on. There's no real verse-chorus arrangement in here. Again, this is a very proggy metal number, but it does go through various segments. There's like 11 of them in total, where it goes through the rhythm and it tells the tale, then it goes into the rhythm again and tells more of the tale. So again, it's not like we go back to a chorus after every little bit. It just keeps moving and moving and moving and continues the story, which I do really, really love. However, guys, in the middle, you probably know all about this. There is a segment that goes on for a couple of minutes or so, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. I'm not quite sure. It's something like that. But Steve Harris just completely takes over. He has this very melodic but very dark sounding bass rhythm going. It's like do 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 do, and it's dark. It is murky. It is creepy, but I just love it. There is some sound effects going on in the background also that just contributes to the atmosphere. But he does actually recite some of the lyrics from the original poem. One after one, by the star-dogged moon, too quick for groan or sigh. Each turned his face with a ghastly pang and cursed me with his eye. 4 times 50 living men, and I heard nor sigh nor groan. With every thump, a lifeless lump, they dropped down one by one. And it's just so bizarre, so creepy, but it works so well. They did play this on the Somewhere Back in Time tour. I think they've only played it on 3 tours, not including the Run for Your Lives tour, which is going on right now. And I was privileged enough to see one of them, the Somewhere Back in Time tour, and I just went berserk during Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And so, yes, he does that for about 4 minutes or so, but then the song stops for a little bit. But then it picks up. It's still just the bass, like do 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 do. And of course, Bruce comes right back in and starts singing. The band hasn't fully come in yet, but then all of a sudden, the song just explodes once again. Rest of the band is back in. It continues to build up and build up and build up until finally we go back into that main rhythm, and it is just such an epic, momentous occasion. And then we have that rhythm one more time until the very end, okay? And of course, we have the mariner's bound to tell his story, to tell his tale wherever he goes, to teach God's words by his own example, that we must love all things that God made, and the wedding guest a sad and wiser man. And the tale goes on and on and on and on. So yes, he is still cursed, continue to tell the tale everywhere he goes, and it ends, and the whole album is done by this point, and I really love Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner is probably my favorite from side number 2. I'm going to go ahead and say that right now, okay? Powerslave was a worthy contender, but nothing was a match for Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. And for a very long time, that was the band's longest song. It wasn't until the year 2015 when a song called called Empire of the Clouds came out, that Rime of the Ancient Mariner was no longer their longest one, but it held the record for what? 31 years, which is just awesome, okay? So yes, that is going to conclude my review of Powerslave. Favorite from side 1 is Aces High. Favorite from side 2 is Rime of the Ancient Mariner. And so there's the cover once again, and that is going to be it for tonight. So thank you all very much for joining me tonight. I had a great time. Next time, we're going to watch an artist live it up as they go up and then going down. And until then, have a very pleasant evening.